So you're a buyer's agent and you want more leads, but where do you start? It can be tough to know where to focus your marketing efforts when there are so many options available, and it's easy to waste time on activities that don't actually produce results. Can you feel me? So in this podcast, we'll share 3 tips for generating more leads as a property buyer's agent. We'll talk about how to use Facebook, LinkedIn, and podcasts to effectively reach potential clients. Now, this is a recording of a live coaching call with Sanders Muleya, Managing Director and founder of MSISA, MSISA Property and Consulting Agents. Sanders helps Australian medical professionals like nurses to build wealth through property. So this is, if you're a buyer's agency or in the property world and this is of relevance to you, keep listening.
Welcome to Authentic Influence with host Anthony Chansamuth, the show where we get real and share the stories and struggles, strategies and tactics of successful influencers and entrepreneurs so that you too can take action to create the life and business that you choose. And now over to Anthony.
Okay, so welcome to Authentic Influence Podcast. This is Anthony Chansamuth from simplecreativemarketing.com. And today, this is a live coaching call. I've got my good friend Sanders Muleya on the call. Sanders runs a business called I can't say it. It's MSISA. Do you say MSISA? Is that what you call it?
MSISA.
MSISA. Okay. MSISA Properties. And they are a property and consulting agents here in Sydney. What does MSISA mean?
That's a nice question. MSISA is an abbreviation. So the M stands for my surname Muleya. SI stands for my wife's first initials, Kumbuzo. SA stands for my first initial, Sanders.
Ah, there you go. That's fantastic. There you go. I like that. So can you tell us a bit about your business, when you got started, and who do you support? What's the mission or the purpose of the business?
So my business is, I can say, 3 years old. So started in 2019. The reason for starting the business was purely to help other investors that want to invest, but they are struggling. They don't know where to invest. And they may have knowledge, but they don't have the time either to actually, do the research and buy the right properties. So my background has been in nursing, and I left nursing purely to help others. So we specialize in sourcing positively geared properties throughout Australia for our clients. And 75% of our clients are in the medical field. So these are nurses, doctors, physiotherapists. You can name it, because they do shift work, and they do not have time to actually do property investments. So MSISA Property and Consulting has also deviated into property developments. So we help our clients as well to source the sites, to source the land, do the due diligence, and go on to build what we need to build. And then the client decides whether they are keeping, selling, or whatever they want to do, to increase their property portfolio. So that's much about MSISA Property and Consulting.
That's amazing. Now, you mentioned that you work specifically with medical workers and that you were a nurse in your former life. So how did you get into the world of property, and when did you start investing or becoming interested in property?
So it's a long story, but 2 years into Australia, I bought the primary place of residence. That was in 2006. And then 2 years after that, I just ventured into investing. But then without education, as you may know, I lost money, and because I didn't know what I was doing. So whilst I was doing nursing, that's when I started educating myself. And once I knew I had a lot of education, that's when I slowly ventured into property investing. Like it was a buy and hold strategy, but I then ran out of money, and then I went into property developments myself. So, and then I realized I was doing quite well, and ended up with 15 positively geared investments throughout Australia. So that's how I thought it was worthwhile to pursue this kind of a job. And then I slowly veered off nursing and became a property developer and a property investor.
Now, there's a lot in that we can unpack, which we won't go into for now because I want to focus on specific questions you might have around your marketing. But I will highlight that what is most compelling about your just the way you've gone about building your business has been you have had the experience that your clients are having, right? So you know what it's like to struggle with understanding real estate and to do the due diligence, to do the market research. Some people are not so ethical in that world, and these sort of things. So, and that always stood out to me the first time we spoke. And and you shared that you really help these people that are also medical professionals, nurses, and people in that industry, in that world that you came from. So you have empathy for them, right? And that's a really great place to be as a business and a business owner. So let's talk about your marketing and how you've gone about to growing the business and spreading the word out. I know you recently did a book launch. How did that go for you?
The book launch was quite amazing. And the way we did it was we did invite our existing clients. We invited our previous clients. We invited friends and family and anyone else that we knew. And the turnout was quite excellent. There were 105 people that actually turned up, and everyone was really positive. The feedback that we did was excellent. And then what really inspires me is that the money that we raised from the sale of the book, and even now, all the proceeds that we get from the sale of the book goes towards supporting these kids that are actually struggling back home in Zimbabwe. They may not have books. They may not even, they are sitting on the floor. They don't have chairs. So we look at that, and we have been sponsoring schools where I actually went myself because I know the situation. And so we are changing lives. So yeah, the book launch went very well.
That's fantastic. And I didn't know about the supporting the Kids in Zimbabwe initiative. And I think that speaks very much to your heart. And as someone who really cares about where you came from and supporting people there, and also supporting people here, because as we know, a lot of migrants. I have one of my relatives works in Liverpool Hospital as a nurse, and so I know a lot of people from immigrant communities end up in the medical fields, right? So that's fantastic. I love that. Now I'm looking at your about page on your website, and the heading on the page is how to win the game of persistence. So I'm sure you can speak a lot about just that journey coming from Zimbabwe. As a young kid, when you were back there, did you ever foresee yourself coming to Australia and running a business over here?
No. This is really surprising because, first of all, I never thought I would actually work abroad. So when I was young, all I was concentrating is get good education, get a good job, and then get married, raise your kids, and then that was the ambition, like anyone else. But things are thrown into our lives, and sometimes things that just change, and before you actually realize it. So without the economic meltdown that happened in our country, probably wouldn't have moved to Australia. But it is what it is. It is up to you to realize these opportunities. And I think if you need something, it really depends how badly you need it. And you will always get what you want if you plan.
Love that. Love that. Okay, so let's talk about your marketing. Do you have a specific challenge right now with the marketing, or a question that you'd like some support with?
So look, I am not really doing a lot of marketing. I'm not doing a lot of media marketing. So my business is growing around referrals from previous clients. Yeah, but I would like to do more media marketing in on Facebook, LinkedIn, and I would also want to do a lot of podcasts. So I think this will actually help me promote my business more, and I would also continuously like to promote the book, the 10x Property System, because people that are reading it are actually saying it is very, very influential. It actually motivates you to do more. So I was thinking, if I can, change the community, if I can educate other people to say property investing is not too hard. So I think that way it will help my business grow as well.
Absolutely. So you talked about sort of social media. I know you have an assistant that works with you, putting content on social media. What is that still happening, or you? I'm trying to understand, when you say you want to increase the media marketing, what's happening, what's not happening now that you would like to see happening?
So I have got an assistant that I am actually working with, but primarily what we are doing right now is probably looking at for example, if we purchase a property, then we actually advertise so people can see what type of a property it is, and so that people can be motivated to buy. And then on top of that, we also every week we do we have got an emailing list where we actually we can update clients on what is happening on the market, and then sort of it is an educational program. So we are present on Facebook, we are present on LinkedIn, but the type of marketing that we do is not really I can say it is not professional. So both of us, me and the assistant, we are actually doing that. But we're thinking that maybe if there's a professional who is, who has got the expertise to market, to do media marketing, it will be better.
Okay, so let's talk about just maybe social media strategy for a moment, and how you can. So I assume that the goal for you is to attract potential clients. You want people who want to invest in property, people who are thinking about it. Ideally, they'd be working in the medical professions because you specialize with that type of client, and you can speak their language, and and they would love your story and they'd love your book, right? So you've got definitely an advantage over a lot of people in your space because you have a very compelling story as an individual, right? And because you've got the book, that's also an asset that you can really leverage. And I know we spoke about this previously, but I wanted just to share this with the audience listening here. I think when you have a book, you've got this credibility, and you can certainly take that story and what you've put in the book, and then use that as a way to open doors into different media channels, right? So have you, as part of your book launch, have you done anything like gone into radio or TV or anything like that?
No, I for the book marketing, I haven't really been aggressive. I haven't gone as far as getting onto a radio channel or a TV or a TV channel.
That's okay. So I think there's there's definitely the opportunity there. And another one you mentioned is podcasts, right? So podcasts are a great way to get in front of an audience, and particularly because you know who your audience is, right? So how would you describe your target audience?
So my audience is primarily medical professionals, as I said, and these are primarily nurses, especially nurses that are dotted throughout the country, because I've been a nurse myself.
Okay, so if you're on LinkedIn, there's something that you can do. I've got the screen. I'm sharing the screen. Can you see that, Sanders?
Yes.
Yeah. So essentially, if you go and search and you type in nurse, for example, and then we can then use all filters. Okay, you're going to click on people because you don't want to look for anything else. But I want to see people, and I want to then filter by location, okay, because I'm getting US results and other things. So I might start off with Sydney, okay. And let's look at Sydney. Sydney's large enough. You have millions of nurses in Sydney, I'd imagine. And then you can start moving into Brisbane and Victoria, like Melbourne and other cities. But as a starting point, right? Now, when you say nurses, are they at a specific level, or does it matter to you what level of nurse? Can they be, do they need to be? I'm trying to understand, do you serve all nurses, or are they specific that they have to be in nursing for a number of years or at a certain level in nursing for them to be an ideal client?
Yeah, look, for me now, I'm just looking at anyone who is a nurse, but primarily registered nurses.
Yeah, okay, so that's fine. So if we just, like what I've done here, I'll put in nurse in LinkedIn, I did a search, I've chosen selected people, and I'm looking at Sydney, right? And here, basically, what it's telling me is there are about 28,000 results for that query, okay? So one thing you can certainly start doing is having your VA start to connect with these people, okay? And that way you're building your audience of nurses, okay, that are based in a specific location, okay? And then if I were to broaden the search and say, okay, let's look at Australia and not just New South Wales, we have 170,000 results, right? With people who have the word nurse or registered nurse in their title, okay? Now, of course, in the medical industry, there might be other people, there might be doctors, there might be other roles within that industry as well that might be relevant to your audience, right? So usually what happens with social media is a lot of businesses will post content, and I see you've been doing that on a regular basis, which is good. But what they don't do enough of is actually growing the audience of relevant people, okay? And to do that, one really effective strategy is to actually search for those people and start connecting with them, okay? And when I say connect, usually, you might connect with this person and say, hey, right? So I would, let's say you connect. I wouldn't just hit send. I'd add a note, and this is why having a VA is important. And I'd say, hey, hi, whatever the name is, I can see that you're you can say a short message, I love, I love working with nurses, or I was a nurse myself. I love working with nurses, and I help them to become financially free, or something like that, right? Like you have a message, or you might think about what's something you could give to these people that would would be a nice gift to help them in their career, all right, or in their life. And you have the ultimate gift because you have a book, okay? So so then you could, in this message, you might say, hey, look, I've helped. How many clients have you worked with already?
Probably 100 or 150, somewhere there.
Yeah, right. So, and you clean up. I'm just giving you an idea here, but it's okay. I've helped 150 nurses to build wealth through property in Australia or something like that. And I've just published a book. Would you like to check that out or something? Could you offer like a digital version of the book to people?
Yeah, there's the electronic book. Yes.
Yes. Is there a free chapter that they can get, or are you happy to give the book, the entire book, for free to people as a gift?
I think the entire book is actually free unless they purchase the hard copy.
Okay, there you go. So then you can say, look, so we'd work on the messaging, but I'd say something like, hi, this person, I can see that you're a nurse. I used to be, I used to be a nurse. I'm a former nurse that helps people in medical profession to build wealth, right? And I've written a book. I'd love to give you a copy as a gift, right? And that would be a nice introduction, right? And you'd send that to LinkedIn has a limit of depending on what plan you're on. If you're on just on the free plan, you can send, I think, 100 per day max. I would keep it to 50 per day just so you don't get your account suspended. If you're on Sales Navigator, you can send up to, I believe, 250 or 500 per day. I'd have to check that, right? And so that's one initiative action I would do, is start to find these people, start connecting with them, offer the book, right, as a free resource, and say, just because your intention is just to help them. That's it, right? And then once they connect with you, now we're audience building. Okay. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, it does. So when you connect with them, once they are connected with you, if ever they respond, thank you for connecting with you, and where does the conversation end? Can you continuously discuss, or how do you get them to be converted from just from so that they then turn into a client?
Okay. So here's the thing: when you say I have a free book and I have a book that I published, would you be interested in reading it? Right? You're asking the question. You're not sending them a link. When you send the connect, you don't give them the link here and say go download, go get the book. Right? You say, is this something of interest to you? Okay. So you're only looking for people who are raising their hand to say to you, yes, I am a nurse and I have an interest in building wealth through property. Okay. So for those people, then you follow up. So they would accept your connect request. And then the next message your VA would send, or you would send, would be, okay, well, here's the link to the book. And you would send them to a landing page, right? So I don't know if you have it on your website, but you would send them to a page. It's a page where there's a form, and the form is name, email address, go download the book. Okay. So now you're moving them off LinkedIn and into your email system, and then you're sending them the newsletter, which you've already said you're sending on a weekly basis, correct?
Yes. So if you send the link to everyone before they even respond, that won't be ideal, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. I said don't send it to them until they say yes, I'm interested. So two things need to happen. One is, in your first message, you don't give a link. The first message, all you're saying is, I help nurses in Australia build wealth through property. Is this of interest to you? Right? And then if they accept the request to connect, and then they say yes, Sanders, I'd like to know more. Okay, then you would respond with, fantastic. You can go and download the book here. Okay, and then some people will go click on the link and they will go and then download the book, and then so they get the they're getting your book for free. In return, they're joining your email list, and you're sending them a weekly newsletter, right? Which is giving them information about properties and things that market information, like as you mentioned earlier. Okay.
Okay.
And now what I would do in between, the first email you send them, right, when they join what's called opt-in for your book, right, your digital book, the first email the first few emails you send should not be the newsletter, right? It should be a thank you for, for checking out my book. You would introduce yourself. So in that first email, you introduce, I'm Sanders, here's my story. I've helped 100, what did you say, 100, 50 investors or nurses in Australia with property investment. You might share a couple of case studies in that story, right, in that email, and then say, and so you basically now letting them know who you are. So and then secondly, firstly, here's the book, here's who I am, and here's how I can help you. All right, and then we would then build what's called a welcome series. Have you heard of this before? A welcome sequence?
No.
Okay, so the goal of the welcome sequence is to move someone from interested to then identifying themselves as a prospective client. Okay, and so what you do over a series of maybe 7 or 10 emails, you're basically you're educating them on how to become an investor. Right, so you might already have blog content on your blog that you can use for this. So you don't need to write it from scratch, right? I would be looking at what are the top, the most popular blogs that you have on your site, or even if you looked at your LinkedIn posts, which are the posts that have had the most comments on and engagement on, right? So I would get your VA to look for that information, and let's identify the top 10 pieces of content that you have already published, right? So blog posts, social media posts, right? Get the VA to find out give me the list of the top 10. Okay, and I'm looking for when I say top 10, most read, most commented, most engaged, right? Because that's the audience telling you these are the things that we're really interested in, Sanders, right? And so then you would take those top 10 and turn them into emails and put that into an email sequence. Okay, so when someone downloads your book, or you send them the first email and say, hey, thanks for subscribing and joining, I'm going to send you over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to send you a series of educational emails to help you understand more about how to become a great investor, right? Because that's what they want to, and how to build wealth, right? For them, it's like, okay, I'm working in nursing, I want to maybe get out of nursing one day like Sanders has, right? Maybe that's the goal, but maybe I've got a family and I want to grow my family and take care of them. They have these personal goals they want to achieve and professional goals. So you're going to show them, okay, over the next, 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to show you how I was able to do that, but also maybe share some of the stories of a couple of clients that we've supported. And so that's, now it's just, you're just building that rapport with them. You're building the trust and the credibility to demonstrate, yeah, it is possible. And the goal of the welcome series for you is to build a relationship with this person. For them is to actually build confidence that they can actually do it, right? Because that's going to be the biggest, as you experienced when you were, and I experienced when I started investing in property, is, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. Can I actually, am I going to lose money? And all these other things come up in your mind, right? So that what we call an education series, I'm calling it a welcome series, but it isn't actually an education series. It's actually helping them to become more confident, and then in themselves, and also confident in you as someone, in your business as someone that can actually help them achieve their goals. Yeah. Now, when they get to the end, email number 7 or email number 10, then we have an invitation, right? So we have an invitation email that says, hey, I hope you've really found value in the content and education that we've provided to you already. Would you like to schedule an appointment to chat about your specific goals and how we might be able to help you with getting started in real estate or growing your portfolio? Okay, and so by this point in time, right, they know who you are, they know what you do, they've read a couple of case studies or seen the videos, they've read your book, right? And so they're in that mindset for the right people, they're going to put their hand up and say, yes, Sanders, I want to chat with you. And you may find that some people already, even before they get to the end of the sequence, they've already emailed you and said, hey, I want to chat. Okay. So that's how we take people from, and you could do, so I'm saying do it on LinkedIn because it's easy to find the people who are nurses on LinkedIn, right? Like we just showed you. If you're talking about Facebook, the way I would do that on Facebook is I'd probably run some kind of ad campaign to run Facebook ads targeting people based in specific locations who have specific job titles. That's really the best way to go about that on Facebook. It's a little different than on LinkedIn. And then what we talked about, you said Facebook, LinkedIn, podcast. So for podcasts, what I'd be looking for is what are the types of podcasts that nurses listen to? So when you were a nurse, were you listening to podcasts at that point in time?
Not really.
Not really. Okay, that's okay. So what I would do is I would actually email your current client list and all your clients and say, hey, do you guys listen to podcasts? If you listen to podcasts, what's your favorite podcast or your top 3? Okay, and they're going to give you, right, and they're going to and you might frame that as, hey, I'm thinking of launching a podcast, and I'd like to learn more about what type of podcast you're already listening to. Okay, and that way you get that data back, and you might do that as a poll on LinkedIn as well and on Facebook. Okay, so if you're listening to podcasts, what podcast you're listening to, right? That'd be a good post, to put on social media, right? And then you can start to understand, okay, these are people are now giving you the podcast that you should be appearing on. Does that make sense? So if 10 or 20 people say, hey, Sanders, I'm listening to nurses in, whatever, how to become a better nurse podcast. Okay. Then that's one that hey, my audience is listening to that show. I need to find a way to get onto that show. Right. And then we would go and send a pitch to the host of the podcast, and we would say, hey, I'm Sanders, this is what I do, I help nurses, whatever. And you might present a topic, how to get started investing as a nurse, right? Do you think the host, right, if you said to the host, I'm going to teach your audience how to get started in investing, because I know like some of our clients listen to your podcast and they're interested in growing their wealth, do you think that would be a good topic the host, if you said to the host, hey, would this be a good topic for your audience? What do you think the host would say?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. Let's have a chat about that. Okay. And then you can say, and to make it more compelling, you would say, for what I'll also offer is anyone who listens to our episode, I'll give them a free copy of my book. Right. And so that makes it really compelling for the host to bring you onto the show. Okay. And so now we've basically worked out the top, and now, a list of podcasts to get you on. We put a process in place to get you onto those shows. And then now, you might have a target of, let's get onto one podcast per fortnight or one podcast per week or per month, right? Over the next, whatever time period, 6 months, 12 months, right? And then that's what we call a guest podcasting strategy. Okay. Now, another way to find out what podcasts to appear on is to actually search Google. You go to Google, you type in nursing podcasts, right? And then it will give you a list. Now, because you're focused on the Australian market, you're going to have to look for Australian podcasts, right? Because if you just type it in Google, you're going to get a whole bunch of US podcasts too. And so, if unless you're planning to launch in the US anytime soon, I would stick to, let's focus on only the Australian podcasts, right? And there are a bunch of those. Another way you can do it is do you use iTunes or an Apple device?
No.
No, okay. What you can do is go to, I think it's called Apple Podcasts. Let me type in, yeah. Okay, so I've just gone to Google, I've typed in Apple Podcasts. This will give me this site. Right now, this is the only problem with this site is it won't let me search here. It actually forces me to launch the Apple Podcast app, right? So if I launch that on my computer here, if you've got a phone, you can download the Apple Podcast app as well. And then what I'm searching for, let's go to top charts. Right, and I can look at categories. Okay, so can you see my screen, Sanders?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm looking for, okay, well, what are the topics that my audience are really interested in? Okay, so for you, maybe it's business, maybe it's is there anything here standing out to you that they might be listening to? Kids and family, if they're having kids and family.
If I missed your screen, because I can only see.
Oh, let's try that again. Share screen. Okay, here. Can you see this? Yeah. So we're inside of Apple Podcasts. This is the app. We go to all categories. All right, and you see it gives me a drop-down list. Okay. So then there's business, right? There is maybe religion and spirituality, but that's probably not a relevant one for you to go on to, because they'd obviously be speaking about religion and spirituality and not so much investing. Maybe kids and family, right? But I would be looking at thinking about what categories of podcasts would my audience be listening to, and that could be another question, right? That you put into a survey that you send to your clients, right? What types of podcasts are you listening to, and can you name 3 podcasts that you're actively listening to today, right, or currently? And that gives you information. Well, another way you can do it is search for nursing or nurses. If I search for nurses podcast, okay, look, there's a podcast here called Nursing Australia. Maybe you've heard that before. There's the humorous nurses, the nurse, straight nursing podcast, the Aussie nurses podcast. That could be a good one for you to appear on. Okay, you can screenshot this if you like. And so I'd be looking at, okay, well, get your VA to make a list of these podcasts, and then these could be ones that we pitch. Okay, we go to them and say, hey, your audience are nurses, right? And let's see what kind of topics they talk about. And this is really Steve. This is a new one. It looks like they stopped because they published in May 2020, and then they haven't done any more after that. So maybe not a good one to pitch because they've kind of stopped.
Maybe because of the coronavirus.
You're right. Okay, so but that's what I'd be doing. I'd be searching, getting your VA to research what are the podcasts that they have an audience of nurses, right? Because that's what we're thinking about, who the audience is. Yeah, and then we can start pitching those. Okay, and there's another tool which might be useful for you. It's called Matchmaker FM. So can you still see my screen? Oh, wait a minute. Resume share. What's going on? Okay. Yeah. All right. So matchmaker.fm. It's basically a site where you can connect with podcast hosts, right? You can go in there, you register an account, you can get started for free, you log in, you do a search for nursing, nurses, doctors, medical, whatever. It's going to give you a list of podcasts, hosts that are also inside of this website, and you can connect with them, right? Because these are people who are telling you that they want guests, right? And that they're looking for guests. Okay, and I've had my VA help me get on. I've been on a podcast almost one every week for the last 6 months, right?
Okay.
And half of those opportunities came from this website. Okay, so this is another way for you to find podcasts that are looking for guests. Okay, and you can connect to them that way.
So that means you connect with these people, then you go there, make your podcast, and then they publish it.
So what they are, so these are, so the strategy here is to be a guest on someone else's podcast, right? So basically,
okay,
right. So yeah, so these people are, what I'm doing is I'm using this to find hosts that already have their own podcast, and they're saying they're looking for guests, and I'm sending them an email or a message. I do the search in here. I find the people I want to connect with. I send them a message saying, hey, I can see that you're looking for a guest. This is what I do, and here are 3 topics I can talk about. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Do you think this would be good for you? Are any of these interesting for you and your audience? And they will pick one of the 3 and say, okay, let's do it. And then they would schedule time with you to get you onto their show. Okay. That's how. That's when you want to guest podcast. Okay. So
the advantage there, obviously, they already have got guests. They already have got people that listen so often. Yeah, so
an audience.
Just there to.
Yeah, because your goal is you've already got the book, you've got the asset, you've already got something that you can give away as a gift for people to get onto your mailing list and then get onto your newsletter, right? So you already that's in place. You may need to put together the welcome sequence, because I don't know if you've done that yet. But now you can go out and start getting onto shows and getting in front of people's audiences, because a good way to grow your audience is to go to where the audience already is already going. Right, so they're already there. They're listening to these podcasts. So this is what we're doing here. Okay, so that's. Let's stop the share here. So we've talked about. So let's just recap the conversation right now. So we've talked about how to use LinkedIn to grow your audience of nurses. We've talked about how to use. I've mentioned Facebook as well and how I would do that. I'll be running ads to people downloading your book. Okay, so that's how I do that on Facebook, targeting nurses in specific locations. And then for podcasts, we've talked about guest podcasting. How do we get you and in front of audiences, in front of other people's audiences? Okay, and so we've run through that as a strategy, and that's a way for you to promote the 10x Property System book as well. Right, so every time. Can you see how I've incorporated the book in everything that we're doing? So when you go to LinkedIn, we're offering the book. When we're going to Facebook, we're offering the book. When we're going to, because your book is a very powerful tool for attracting the right people to your world. Okay. But the key is we're not just going to send them a link to a PDF. We're going to send them to a page where they can opt in. So they're going to give you their email address and their name, and maybe maybe they can identify themselves as a nurse, a doctor, or whatever their profession is in that form. Okay, so that's going to help you understand who they are. Yeah, and then you've got your one thing that I would tweak is to add a welcome sequence, or what I call an education sequence, to your email list, and then that's designed to help take someone from a visitor and a listener, or someone who's just new to your world, to becoming educated, and also they know who you are, they know what your credibility is, and for those who are ready, they will put up their hand and jump on a call with you and start having those conversations. All right. So has this been helpful for you?
Yeah, it has been excellent. So the only thing is, on the link for the book, obviously it is already there on the ebook. But I think what is there now, if ever they fill in, if ever they want the free ebook, there is their name, there is the email address,
yeah,
and then that's it. There's no other information. So we can't tell what profession they are in. So maybe, I don't know, is that something that we need to add on?
Yeah, so what I would do is there's 2 ways to do that. One is on the form itself, where they actually put in their email address and their name. You can add another field to say, what's your profession, right? Or that could be a drop-down list, so they can pick from various options, right? So you could put in their registered nurse, you could put in their doctor, whatever the different categories are, so they can just pick from an option list. That's one way to do it. All right. What we find is the more fields you add to a form, the less people will actually fill in the form. Okay, so that's one thing you can test, right? You can test, okay, let's do 2 versions of this page. This is what we call split testing in marketing, right? You do one version, which is the form is a simple form, the one you already have, which is just name and email address. On a second separate page with a different form, you would have name, email address, and occupation, right? And then you would send people to both, and you see which one is performing better for you, which one is getting you, are you getting the same numbers of people signing up for the book on both pages? If they are, then I would switch over to the one with the occupation and just use that completely, right? You may run that test for 30 days, okay? And then the second thing you can do is in the welcome sequence, in that email sequence that when they opt in, you automatically they get an email from your email software. What are you using for email software right now?
I am using for the email sequence, I use Gmail.
Using Gmail. Okay, so the form, when they fill in the form, does it go to, where's the data being captured? Does it go into a spreadsheet, or does it get emailed it to you? How do you get the data?
So once someone fills in that form,
yes,
and then an email comes to me to say someone is actually prescribed to your book.
Okay.
And then it also automatically goes to the emailing list.
So it's a system that you're using. Is that a specific? What's the name of the system? Do you know?
The name of the system it is called Amelia.
Okay. I'd have to look more into that. Is there a way to set up a email sequence inside of that tool?
Yes,
there is. Okay. So if you can, that's good. If you can do that, that's fine. Yeah, I'd have to have a look around, but if you can do that, that's fine. That's good. As long as the email is being captured and going somewhere, and then you can use that information to send your newsletters to, that's great. Now, coming back to your question, what I would say is the first email that you send them will be, thank you for subscribing, or, here's the link to download the book, right? And then you have a paragraph explaining who you are. Hi, I'm Sanders. This is what I do. This is our business, what we do, who we serve, these sort of things. And then you would say, I'm going to send you over the next, 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to send you, let's say, 10 emails, right? An education, some educational emails to help you understand how to become a better investor or to grow your wealth through property. Okay. Now, email number 2, right? So email number 1 is the one we just talked about. Email number 2, what you can send is actually a survey email. Okay. And in the email, it basically says, okay, so that we can send you the right resources, could you please answer this one question, right? And the question might be, what is your current profession? All right. And then you give them a choice. You say registered nurse, whatever, option B, option C, option 3, whatever. You might give them 3 options or more. You might have an option at the bottom, which is just other, right? And what you're doing is you're letting them click on choosing their preferred option. So if they're a registered nurse, they should click on option 1, right? And that should then tag in your system. It should tag them as a registered nurse, right? So this depends on your system, whether it can do this or not. I imagine it should be able to do tagging. So that's something you have to, do you know if it does that?
I am not so sure, because right now, like if ever someone prescribes to the book, they straight away go into the emailing list. So I think it will be then up to us to follow them through, because they just become part of the whatever the existing emailing list is. So that means every day or every week or whenever someone subscribes, then we need to follow them through.
Yeah, okay. So that's a very manual process. I'd have to have a look at your email system to see what its capabilities are and whether we can automate that. Right. So I'm using a tool. There's a couple of tools that one I'm using is called ConvertKit. And there's some other ones that are out there like ActiveCampaign. I know Cheryl from TGH is using, no, she's switched. She's using a different system now. But there are tools that they're called email software, right? And they basically allow you to do these in email surveys. So you can actually create the surveys inside the email, and for every option that you present in the email, when someone clicks on it, the system automatically tags a specific keyword to that option, right? And then what you can do is you can specify, when you create a new broadcast or a new email, you can specify that you only want to send the email to people that have a specific tag. So if you say, I want to send an email right now to people who are tagged as registered nurse, okay, it will then automatically work out, okay, here are 500 people who are tagged registered nurse. We're only going to send the email to that group of people, or what we call a segment, right? So there's email software that does that. So first thing I'd be looking at is, can we do that with your current email system? And if we can't, you may need to look at exploring another email tool instead, okay? Because that makes it more powerful, and it's going to automate and systemize that process for you, right? Otherwise, it is a very manual process, because like you say, you're going to have to email people and say, hey, what's your profession? And then you have to, the VA has to follow up and do stuff in the software. It can get very laborious, which, I mean, that may be something you want to do initially. My recommendation would be get a software that does it automatically for you.
Yeah, look, maybe it is just basic, or maybe it is the setup. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so something that, we can have a look at that, okay? But something you can definitely do right now, if you can do it, is update the form and then put a field for occupation. So then they can actually put in, when they're filling it out, name, email, occupation, email address, those 3 fields. That way, when you get the data, straight away, okay, this is a registered nurse, right? And then you might have a CRM tool or some kind of tool that you're tracking leads in your in sales leads. Then you might tag, okay, this person that just came in is a new registered nurse. They would be tagged as a potential lead, right? This is another conversation around sort of sales strategy. But all right, we're going to wrap up. We're hitting on 60 minutes here, but I wanted to first of all ask you, what's your main takeaway from this conversation?
Yeah, I think is what I actually took away from this is you must have something systemized. It can't be anything that is random that you're actually doing. You need to be targeting your audience. You need to identify who your audience are, and then you target them. And then you also have to avail yourself. You need to get into those areas, into those channels where there's already existing audience that you need to tap in, and then be actually be able to use those instead of you starting from scratch, because the audience are already there. Someone has already built them. So all you have to do is trying to tap into that, and then turn those audience into clients.
100%. I like to think of it as like fishing, right? Do you like fishing or go fishing?
Yeah, I do. Although I'm actually scared of sharks and crocodiles.
Well, you want to stay. Well, here's the thing: if you're going to go fishing for trout, for example, you're going to go to a river where this trout is there. You're not going to go to a bay where it's full of sharks, right? So
as long as you remain in the boat, okay.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Same thing. We're taking that concept and that analogy, right? We're doing the same thing with your business. We're saying, okay, where are the trout? In this case, where are the nurses hanging out? Right? They're on LinkedIn. They're on they're listening to these podcasts, right? They may be visiting certain websites and blogs. Okay, so that's another way that people like to research. Okay, and so now we're thinking about, okay, where are these? I'll call them pools, right? So then we identify the pools, and then we go out there and we go, okay, well, now let's put in our bait. And in your circumstance, your bait is your book. Okay, that is the bait. Okay, you put the bait out there. Okay, and then you know when we go fishing, not every single fish will bite on the bait. Some will, some won't. And you're looking for the ones that are going to bite. Okay, and so does that help sort of frame what we're doing?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and this is how we audience build. Okay, now we can have a whole other conversation on how you can create your own platform, which is creating your own podcast, creating your own YouTube channel, and you certainly want to have one piece of your marketing doing that. Okay, now for now, what I would say is you already have the newsletter. Your newsletter is your platform. All right, you setting that on a weekly basis. Okay, now it's about optimizing that newsletter and making it more, and not just only like here's information about market and investing opportunities, but here are the things you need to look at in terms of becoming a better investor and making sure you don't lose money, or at least reducing that risk, right? How to work with a buyer's agency, right? How to identify the right buyer's agency. These sort of questions are coming up in your prospective clients' minds, all right? So you could be putting out on your website, you have a blog, so you can do that as a monthly blog or a weekly blog post. Depends on your availability and your time. But I would say at a minimum, you should be publishing at least one blog post or article on your website that is more of an educational nature and not just here are the investment opportunities available this month or this week, right? It needs to be more of, okay, red flags to look out for when you're trying to choose an area to invest in, or how to speak, questions you should be asking your buyer's agency, right? These sort of questions, those type of articles will do really well for you. And you may choose to do that as a podcast as well, right? You might choose to hit record on a microphone and you just sit there for 10 minutes and you just speak it out. And then you turn that, that becomes a podcast for you. You release that on a regular basis. And then that's another way to build an audience, right? But that's a longer strategy. That takes more time to do that, right? So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying, first of all, let's focus on going to where the audience already is. Then once we've done that for, let's do that for 90 days, then we introduce the next element, which might be, let's do a podcast, your own podcast, for example. Is that helpful?
Yeah. I think it is very helpful, but at the same time, it needs planning. It needs time.
100%. That's why we need to build a content strategy, and that's why I always start before I start working with any client, we sit down and we spend 2 hours together and we say, let's do a strategic plan for the next 90 days. All right. So then we know where to allocate your time, your resources. Where should you put your VA, right? Because your VA can be doing a lot of things, but they might get overwhelmed if there's too much things. And if there's too much things for you, you're going to get overwhelmed and you're not going to get the result that you want, right? And the result we're looking for here is more leads, more sales conversations, right? With people who are going to become potential clients, okay? And at the same time, we're building that audience over time. It will get bigger and bigger and bigger. But that's more of a medium to long-term goal, is to get your audience up to 10,000 followers and these sort of things. I think for you, like for most business owners, I'd be more happy if we can get you 5 sales appointments in the next 30 days or 10 sales appointments in the next 30 days who are people who want to buy or ready to buy, right? And then, yeah, that's how we tackle strategy, right? So we're going to wrap it up here, mate. Any other thoughts before we end the episode?
No, thank you very much for the episode. It was, it was refreshing, and it actually made me think. There's a lot of opportunities out there. I think you just have to shift the goalposts and, be able to see those opportunities. I think the next thing is to see how we can structure this to grow the business.
Absolutely. Okay, fantastic. So for everyone listening, you can connect with Sanders. You can head over to MSISAproperty.com.au. We'll put the link in the show notes as well. And I'll also put a link to his LinkedIn profile if you want to connect with him there. But definitely, if you're interested, if you are in the world of wanting to invest in property and grow your portfolio and you're in Australia, then this is your guy. You can have a chat with Sanders. And as you've already heard over the last hour, he's an amazing, really kind-hearted gentleman. So I will definitely recommend you chat with Sanders. Thank you for joining us today, Sanders, and we will definitely work with you again in the future.
Thanks, Anfen.
Okay, let's stop. Are you looking for a way to grow your B2B business or software company? Well, how about learning some of the best tips for content marketing, connecting with potential partners, and pitching your business? Well, if that's you and it sounds great, I invite you to join us on our upcoming B2B content marketing Q&A and speed dating podcast party. This is a live Zoom call for our community members and listeners to our podcast that can come along, and you'll get to interact, learn something new, and then also have a chance to get expert advice and make valuable connections. All right. The session will be recorded and published on our Authentic Influence podcast. All right. So register now and join us live on Zoom. The next event is coming up in a few weeks' time. Just head over to simplecreativemarketing.com/podcast party. That's simplecreativemarketing.com/podcast party to register. There's only 15 spots, so if you want to jump in, go ahead and do that today. Hope to see you there real soon. Now, just quickly, if you want to check out the show notes for this episode, just head over to simplecreativemarketing.com/podcast, and you can grab all the links and things and resources on there. And also, if you are a conscious entrepreneur, got a professional services business, working B2B, and you've got an interest in building influence and income through showing up, serving others, and being real, then I invite you to join my Authentic Influence Warriors Facebook group. If you want to do that, just head over to simplecreativemarketing.com/community. Okay, thanks for joining in, and I'll see you on the next episode. Hey, thanks so much for listening all the way to the end. You've made it. Really appreciate you for doing so. I hope you got some value out of this conversation, and I wanted to leave you with just a quick gift for making it this far. All right, I've got some tools and training to become an authentic leader and to grow your business and influence online for you. Just head over to authenticinfluence.co/gift, and that's authenticinfluence.co/gift, and you can access all the goodies right there. Again, thanks for listening, and if you did get something great out of this, please share this particular episode. I'd love to have more people listen to this conversation and learn more about this particular podcast. Thank you again. Chat with you real soon.